we doing, guys? And welcome back to TSTV for the weekend review of all the Premier League games this weekend. Apart from Leeds versus Everton, this is being recorded before the Monday Night Football. I guess a lot of content creators do release their sort of reviews of the weekend, and all the podcasts do before the Monday Night Football goes out. And I'll continue to do that in the same vein, unless it is a really, really big and seismic Monday Night Football. Although, if you're a Leeds and Everton fan, maybe you will disagree. Again, this season, I'm going to try and do some different types of content, and I'm going to try and make it more universal for all clubs within the Premier League, not just focus on Chelsea, although I will do a lot of Chelsea-related content, but do more universal content for all of you fans of football out there. So let's dig into the weekend's games a little bit. Some I saw much more than others, as you may be able to tell from the video. I think first of all, we should start with Sunderland 3, West Ham 0, and what an amazing result and performance that was from Sunderland. West Ham, on the other hand, played quite well in the first half, but in the second half just completely capitulated, and I'll come on to them in a second, because that game was all about Sunderland and desire and the passion from that fan base and that team that we saw. And they gave 8 debutants a run out in that game. So it wasn't like they just fielded the continuity 11 from last season. It was a very, very different side from the one that ended the playoff final against Sheffield United. But wow, what a impact a lot of those signings made. Diarra especially looked really, really bright and athletic and powerful on midfield. He's their record signing. But all 3 goal scorers were actually from the team that got them promoted last year. Mayenda, Dan Ballard and Wilson Isidore. And that's really nice to see as well, because it shows that the team and the players that did get them up are still contributing. And I think that's kind of makes the victory a little bit more special. But you could see the scenes in the ground when the goals went in. It was absolutely incredible. And Sunderland are a massive football club, brilliant football club. Great to have them back in the Premier League. And, you know, it's a very, very good start for them. They've got some quite favourable fixtures coming up. I think their next game is Burnley away. And again, that is a bit of a 6-pointer, but they've given themselves a real, real platform. And as for West Ham, I mean, oh my goodness. I predicted them to sort of finish 10th or 11th. I might have to revise that looking at that game on Saturday, because they were absolutely all over the place at the back. Mads Hermansen in goal had an absolute nightmare. And they look like a really, really poor side, a side that hasn't had much quality injected into it. They've not done that much in the transfer market. And I've said this for a long time about Graham Potter. He's obviously got some talent as a coach. You don't get to where he is in the game without displaying that. But for me, he is a very, very poor manager. He displayed that at Chelsea. I think at times, even at Brighton, he displayed that. They went long stretches without winning games. But at Brighton, no disrespect, you can get away with that. You're not going to be in the headlines. At Chelsea, especially, and also West Ham, who are a really very, very big football club, you're not going to get away with performances and results like this. And you've really got to fear for him. And obviously, my team, Chelsea, play West Ham away on Friday. And if Chelsea go there and put in a performance and put West Ham to the sword in a similar fashion that they did last season, then Graham Potter's already going to be under the pump. So very, very disconcerting from them. To kick the weekend off, Liverpool beat Bournemouth 4-2 in a real roller coaster of a game. There was obviously an incident in that game involving racial abuse towards Antoine Semenyo. And look, I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely vile that this still happens, that this is still happening in football and in society today. And I think the problem is that football in a lot of ways mirrors society, and there are so many issues and divides politically that we are seeing at this moment in time. And it manifests itself in cultural events such as going to football matches. But it just should never be the case. It's deplorable. It makes me feel sick. As I said, I don't have the answers. I'm not the person maybe to deliver the answers, but we need to stamp this out of the game. And it was really, really awful to see. And look, you got to give massive credit to Antoine Semenyo from having to go through that and then delivering the performance he did. His 2 goals in the second half, particularly his second goal, absolutely incredible, running basically from his own penalty area and slicing the Liverpool defence apart and tucking it away into the bottom corner. What a performance from him. And Bournemouth, I thought, really deserved something from the game. They gave Liverpool a real fright. And I know I predicted Liverpool to win the league last week, and I might have to renege on that And I won't yet. It's only one game in, and you never know. But defensively, it's all over the place. It looks so open. It looks so easy to get at them. And Arne Slot's a very good coach. I'm sure he'll be able to find a solution and rectify that. But it was very, very concerning from a Liverpool point of view. But going forward, they have so much firepower. They have so much quality. They will be able to outscore teams. I think this season we're going to see maybe more of a return to that Jurgen Klopp style football from about 5 or 6 years ago, where it was heavy metal football, where games would be end to end, but they would just outscore opponents. And particularly if they get Alexander Isak over the line, they will definitely score a lot of goals. I think there'll be a lot of high scoring games involving Liverpool this year, but they did get away with one, and Bournemouth can feel very hard done by that they didn't come away with at least a point in that game. On Super Sunday, Chelsea drew 0-0 with Crystal Palace. Now, I usually would do a more in-depth match review on Chelsea, but there was really not anything to say about this game. It was very, very underwhelming, very, very poor. I'm not going to start panicking just yet. I think the progress this team's made over the last few months is clear for all to see. But I think this was maybe just a one-off. Crystal Palace are a very, very good side. You look at the team that they've got: Henderson, Gay, I know he may leave, Lacroix, Eze, who might leave as well, Wharton, Hughes, Mateta, Sarr, even Munoz at right wing-back, Tyreek Mitchell. 8 or 9 players that would get into most top 6 teams or squads. They're a very, very good team. They've got a brilliant manager, and they negated the threat of us very, very well. They obviously had the goal that was disallowed. Now, if it was against us, I'd be very, very upset. But I guess the rules are the rules, and the rule was applied correctly. So I guess in a way you can't really argue against it. But I can understand why they would feel hard done by. But it was a very difficult, stodgy game. Palace, I think, really kind of came to attack early doors and then kind of sat back into a shape and contained us, and they did it very, very effectively. We missed a few big chances through Esteval, Andre Santos, Trevor Chalobah in the first half, so we could have squeaked the game, but I think a draw was a fair result. And look, as I say, I'm not too concerned. I think Palace, out of our first 6 games, after this, we've got Brighton, no, not in any particular order, Brighton, Fulham, Man United, West Ham, who we play on Friday, and Brentford. And that will be a very, very good chance to pick up some points. And I think Palace, out of those teams, are probably the best team we will face in that run. And I do include Manchester United in that still. So not the end of the world. Bit of an underwhelming start. Doesn't get the juices flowing. But if we can go and put in a good performance against West Ham on Friday, then that will be quickly forgot. So yeah, moving on to Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1. Again, a very, very stodgy game. It was a bit of a Mikel Arteta / Jose Mourinho style performance. Get 1-0 up through a bit of a scrappy set piece and then just defend for the rest of the game, essentially. Arsenal didn't really display any free-flowing football at all. But the one thing we do know about Arsenal is they're extremely resilient. They've got the best defence, I think, in the league. They've got options that can come in and back up those defenders as well. They're a really, really hard and tough unit to break down. Man United, I thought, looked bright in spells. Cunha and Bremo, particularly in the first half, I thought were very, very bright. I thought Dorgu looked good at left wing back as well. And there were some nice combinations that you could see. But I never felt, after about half an hour, 40 minutes in, that anything other than Arsenal 1-0 win was going to happen. It seemed completely telegraphed. And look, I'm sure there'll be more to come from Arsenal footballing wise. I'm sure Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal fan base will want to see a lot more quality, and they'll come up against tougher tests for sure. But to start the season off with a 1-0 away at Old Trafford is never easy, so you've got to give credit to them for that. And it's 3 points on the board at the end of the day, and a difficult fixture that's been gotten out of the way. As for Man United, as I said, there were some positives, but I'm still not really big on United this season. They've got some good attacking players, but midfield and defensively, I still don't think they're good enough. Goalkeeper, certainly not good enough. Bayanda made a massive mistake, and they're going to have to rectify that position. As I said, it made me feel blessed to have Robert Sanchez in goal. That's all I can say. So yeah, solid win for Arsenal. And then on to one of the other title contenders, Manchester City, who were very, very impressive up Wolves, albeit I think a very limited and quite poor Wolves team. I thought Wolves gave it a bit of a go, but they just didn't have the quality without Cunha, without Aït-Nouri to really hurt Man City. And City were purring at times. I mean, Tiani Reinders, that was performance of the weekend individually for me. He was absolutely incredible. He was like a Rolls Royce. His running power, his ability to get into the box, his quality with his passing was just absolutely sensational. And he looks like a really, really good signing. Turkey obviously came off the bench and I put him in my fantasy team. And when I saw he wasn't starting, I was very cross. But then he comes on, scores a goal of real high quality. We know with Pep, he likes to bring new players, especially younger ones, in and out. So whether he starts against Tottenham next weekend, I'm not too sure, but we'll have to see. But yeah, very, very good start from Man City. Haaland, again, back in amongst the goals, but what more can you expect? He's always going to score goals. And I guess the thing with City is I've said that we will finish above City this season. I'm going to stick to that because I'm not going to change my mind after week one. But if they can keep Reinders and Rodri gets fit, and we see the Rodri that we saw in the last few seasons, they can keep Stones and Diaz fit, they can get Cherky, in the team and firing, or Phil Foden, and Haaland obviously stays fit and scores goals, then they probably will be very, very difficult to stop. So impressive for Man City. Very, very good win for them. In terms of other games over the weekend, Tottenham got a 3-0 win at home against Bournemouth. Richarlison scored an absolute worldie of a bicycle kick. Absolutely brilliant goal. They look very, very assured. It was a very different type of performance from Tottenham than what we saw against PSG. They were a lot more fluid and attacking. But against PSG, again, they were really, really effective with, set pieces, long throws, being tough to beat and aggressive. And Thomas Frank does what he does best, which is adapt to the opponent. And that's why I think he's a really, really good manager, because he can be flexible with his approach. And he made, he played a much more attacking team against Burnley. Bergvall and Archie Gray came in. Brennan Johnson came in as well. They played with a back four rather than a back five. Yeah, they ran out fairly comfortable winners. Burnley gave it a little bit of a go, and I think they got to about the 60th minute, 1-0. Yeah, Tottenham won very, very comfortably in the end, and it's a very good start for Thomas Frank. They'll obviously have bigger tests to come. They go away to Man City next week, and I guess that will be a very, very good barometer. I think what he's shown in his first two games against PSG and Burnley is that he has different tactical approaches, and they can both work very effectively. So there'll be a very interesting side to watch this season, particularly if they can get Eze over the line, Savinho. That will be a massive coup for the club. Nottingham Forest as well, 3-1 win against Brentford, as I mentioned the other day. I have a fear that Brentford will go down, and those fears have not been allayed after Sunday. Forest were 3-0 up at half-time and cruising. Brentford go and get a consolation late on in the second half. Chris Wood in amongst the goals again. I didn't think he'd be able to repeat what he did last season, but he's again proven me wrong. Obviously, we'll have to see, and bigger and tougher tests await, but that is very, very concerning from a Brentford point of view. You would have to really, really fear for them. As I said, I think they'll really struggle this season. They may well stay up, but I think if they do, it will be by the skin of their teeth. As for Forest, again, they've invested heavily in the past week. They've gone and got Murray Hutchinson, James McAtee. They've gone and signed a player from Rennes who's very highly rated and whose name I can't now remember. But again, they're investing heavily. They'll obviously, I think, look to take on Europe with, head on. I still think there'll be a drop off in the league this season for them, but they'll be absolutely fine. They've got enough quality in their team. They've got a good back line. So I think they'll be sort of in and around that middle-ish table position, but I think they'll have a real crack at the Europa League and maybe the Cups. A couple of other games this weekend. Aston Villa 0, Newcastle 0. Not much to say about that other than Endry Konsa got a bit of a stupid sending off. Newcastle then can break them down, and again, it's absolutely staring them in the face that they need to sort this Alexander Isak situation out one way or another. They need to either sell him and get some replacements in, or, eventually try and reintegrate him into the team, because it can't go on that they have Anthony Gordon up front. They haven't got a striker at the moment, and Newcastle actually do have a very good side, but that is going to undermine their whole season if they don't sort that out. Villa had a couple of changes in the starting 11 from the team we used to see last season. A good result for them, considering they played for nearly 40 minutes with 10 men, but nothing really to write home about in that game. Brighton also got a draw against Fulham, and Fulham nicked a point really, really late on for a good finish from Rodrigo Muniz. Again, not the most entertaining or thrilling game. I think a game that Fulham would be very, very pleased to get out of with a draw, particularly as they scored with the last kick of the game. Brighton, I think, will have a decent season. They always seem to, but their home form tends to actually fluctuate quite a bit. They tend to actually do quite well against the big sides and then drop points against teams they should beat. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that dynamic works this season. But I think both teams will be fine. I've not got really much to say about this game other than a draw was probably the fair result. But yeah, probably a better point in the end of the day for Fulham. And yeah, that's really the Premier League weekend in the nutshell. I will do a match preview for Chelsea versus West Ham for the game on Friday, and hopefully Chelsea play a lot more enterprising football than they did on Sunday. And I'll also deliver a Premier League preview with predictions for the rest of the games of the weekend. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me, guys. And yeah, look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.